Wonderful. Officially welcoming you to A Medium's World. I'm Bonnie Worth, and of course, I'm a medium. I love to talk about all of this stuff. I love to empower people with information about the other side, and of course, to demystify some of the things that maybe we've been taught, we've been learned, or we've been conditioned about being a medium, or even about the work that we do. So this is a beautiful opportunity. I've brought together some of my favorite mediums. I have lots of them, but a few of them who are coming and willing to join in conversation here tonight to talk about their story, their invitations from the spirit world to move into doing this work, as well as the scope, the direction or call and the scope of work that they are doing now because of it. Being a medium is I believe it's the most healing modality that there is. I believe it is such a gift to be the medium. I don't believe that I have gifts. I don't believe that somehow I'm extra special than other people. That's simply not the case. This is this beautiful gift that I'm able to give others. It's not something that I have. So personally, I think I spoke about that the other night. So I won't get too much into that. As we come into the awareness of it, there are so many aspects that make us who we are. We all have unique personality attributes. We all have different belief systems, and we also we even have opposing or different experiences with the spirit world as well. So this is why I think there's such value in this conversation, because it really does help to give you a real understanding in terms of as unique as we are in terms of our own selves and our own personality. So is our connection to the spirit world. It's very unique in how we receive, how we work, the things, even right down to the kinds of messages that each of us are here to offer, and messages that are based on our personal life experience, which I always reference as being our personal bias, but also from an astrological perspective, this unique divine and holy recipe that makes us who we are. And within it, certain skills and talents that become heightened, but also in terms of the overall messaging that we are here, in how we offer, not just in how we receive, but how it is we offer those messages. So before we begin, as always, I'd like to take a moment just to gather us all into groundedness, into settledness and unity and togetherness here tonight on the call. So if I can invite you again, just to please take a moment and close your eyes and just really to begin to focus on the inhale and the exhale. Just allow your body to bring you into its own natural rhythm, into a current of energy that just allows for presence, to be settled and at ease. Here we've been beginning just releasing, any fears, any nervousness, any anxiousness, maybe that you have as a medium yourself, or even in terms of someone who is learning to discover more about the other side or more about mediums, just to help allow the breath, this moment, to just alleviate some of the resistance, that fear that shows up for fear and excitement. We talked about that last night, how fear and excitement can be a mix of the same energy. And just let yourself fall into this very natural rhythm. And as you do, we move into the right here, the right now. We drop into our heart space, this heart space that connects us to who we are, to each other, to the holy, the divine, to the spirit world. This shared space where we are all one, that we are already receiving, we are already sharing, we are already enough. I have a picture on my wall that says, "Let whatever you do today be enough." And so with this breath, just In this moment, just let yourself just have that reprieve and that relief. Just enough. There's nothing else you need to do or change or try to become. Just the invitation to get to know yourself, to be with yourself in holy communion. I invite you just to place your hand over your heart and just feel the connection with yourself. Feel that connection with the light within you, that vastness of love, that vastness of light that's within your own heart. This heart connection to the spiritual light is your light. This is your love. This is your purpose for being. And now, as you breathe, just move down from your heart and into the belly. And imagine going towards the earth with your breath to let go of any unwanted energies, anything that is unserving, even sorrow, even grief, sadness. Just allow Mother Earth to help and support you in her alchemical skill of transmutation, where she can use this energy like fertilizer in supporting your life, this new understanding of yourself as a medium, or even maybe this new life or understanding after your loss. This intelligent inner light, clearing, cleansing, healing, renewing. On the most subtle level, you may not feel anything. Just trust that it's happening anyway. And it's through our conversation tonight that we allow for all of those doubts, all of those insecurities, all of the reasons or struggles, the challenges, even the joys. Even joy, if we hang on to joy, we create limitation. We want to express joy so we can receive even more joy. So we're just allowing here with this heart connection that you are being cared for, nurtured, loved, and feel loved through our conversation here tonight. Feel seen, heard, understood, recognized for the light and for the love that you bring into the world. And so as I release this prayer and through the words that I've offered, I know that love surrounds you, that light is the same light that breathes me, that breathes you, the same love that breathes me and breathes you. And that it is through this light and through this love that those on the other side make their way forward, connect with us, comfort, and direct us. And so I release this word, saying thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Amen, amen. Wonderful. Oh my gosh. So we are here with the wonderful Amy Commander tonight. Now, Amy is a yogi, and she is, I mean, very accomplished in not only her yoginess, but also in her connection with the other side. She also is an astrologer and really, is passionate. She's a Reiki healer. She does tarot. She uses tarot cards. She has all these magical things that she brings forward. She really has gleaned a lot through her life, through a lot of highs and a lot of lows in her own life, deep or dark nights of the soul, we can say, that have helped her come to realize her own light, her truth, and her power. Amy, I would like to welcome you to our conversation tonight.
Hi, Bonnie.
Hi,
Hi,
I'm
everyone else.
so glad you're here. Oh my goodness. So, Amy, of course, I know it's late for you, so I really appreciate you taking opportunity and time to be with us here tonight. And I hope you had a little bit of a sleep before you were able to come on. Although
Actually,
I don't know if that would be possible because the energy coming into these calls is so big that it creates a little bit of restlessness. Like I just couldn't wait to start our conversation.
yes, I feel that as well. Although I will say I had a big day yesterday, so I did take a tiny, teeny little nap earlier. So yeah, and I feel energized. It doesn't feel as late as it is.
Good. Oh, good. I'm so glad. So, Amy, of course, I did a little, I mean, I guess, in it summing up, in what is the vastness or the totality of your story, really in terms of moving through a dark night of the soul that really brought you to your knees with a knee injury, quite literally, that really began to take you into an alternative direction for your health and your wellness. So
Yes.
please, I'd love, in that, I'd also love, as you're just kind of moving into it, also, how it was that spirit kind of got your attention. How is it that you came to like go, okay, there's something more than what I'm seeing in front of me?
Well, I will say that my introduction to yoga, I think, was definitely the first time that I became aware of things that I couldn't explain. You know, um, I'll never forget, I was in a yoga class. It was a really challenging class, enough to kind of, I think, get me out of my head, and so I was laying at the end of class in what's called like Shavasana, and I started hearing things, and I thought everyone had heard what I heard. And I asked a few people after class, and no one else had heard the things that I heard. And so, of course, I thought I was crazy, and that really did begin this journey for me, where I guess I was kind of just very curious of what these things that were happening to me. And this was quite a while ago. And then, of course, I did have a number of situations, losing people very close to me, and then having experiences after they had passed that I wasn't able to explain. And that led me to you.
Yeah.
And you put this wonderful language to all of these things that I had been experiencing, probably, really my whole life. But I think that it got to a point where I could no longer deny the experiences that I was having. And then, I was led to you, and I remember we had a phone conversation. You used to do little consults,
Yes,
for people who were, and
still
so we
do.
had a really, yes, we had a really short, I mean, it may have been maybe 20 minutes or something. And I promise you just like explained my entire life. And that was it. I was in.
20 years, like your entire life in a nutshell in 20 minutes. But I
Yes.
love that you share that, as you kind of moved into it, these experiences that you couldn't explain were happening around you. But as you began to reflect and look back, it was like showing up earlier for you and you hadn't even realized. And I think that's very common for a lot of mediums. The experiences we have, they're so normal to us that we don't recognize them as, not everyone experiencing these things. We just think, as you said, everybody's hearing the voices, everybody's having these visions, everybody knows there's a dead relative standing in the middle of the living room, right? We just think everybody knows that. And it's not until we're put in this place, as you said, you start, asking other people and they're suddenly going, no, I'm not sure what you're talking about. And you really do start to question your own sanity.
Yes, absolutely. I
Yeah.
remember when one of the first conversations that we had, these things were so foreign to me, some of them. And so I was sharing with you and I'm like, I know this sounds crazy, but, and you're like, yep, 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 like been there, done that, but it's funny too, because for me, I think that the mind really tries to make sense of some of these things that were happening. I guess it's the ego that tries to make sense of it, or make, I mean, there were things that were happening that you just cannot make sense of, such as someone who's passed and their number is blocked on my phone, but yet I'm getting text messages from them. I mean, it really happened,
Yes.
and to me, I'm thinking there's no way to explain that, but yet my mind made some way to explain it, and then of course I have a conversation with you and it's like, oh no, you confirmed what I think I knew deep down all along, but I
Right.
think I was scared to admit it.
Yes. Yeah. And you're right. I think our mind creates all of these other reasons why something might be happening. So, even with your cell phone, oh, well, maybe you had unblocked that number, or there was, there's all these things. Oh, you right away go into the technology. Maybe there was a phone update that took place that, altered it, right? All of these things we seek to try to explain this very intangible experience that we've just had, simply because we need, it's like the ego loves to find the excuse and the reason so that it can kind of justify its point of view in whether this is real or not.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. And so have you found that you kind of do you find it easy to tell people you're a medium? Do you find it easy to, kind of share the visions, the experiences you've had, or do you feel kind of stilted and a little uncomfortable? Like, is it something that's really, you know, loved and accepted by your family or community, or is it a little bit of a challenge?
I would say it's a combination of both. I feel very comfortable around certain people. And I will say that a lot of people, such as members of my family, have really they've really come a long way and they've completely accepted me. And even my mom, was sharing this link tonight and
Oh,
inviting some of
nice.
her friends.
Oh, good.
And, a couple years ago, I was afraid to tell her, about, what I did. And, so there's some people that, and in fact, just the post that I put on social media this week, I had more people respond to that than half of the other stuff I post. And it's so
Wow.
funny too, because, I guess I sometimes have this assumption that maybe people won't be into it, or that maybe they'll judge me, or, maybe they're scared or whatnot. But it's funny that, there's almost a larger group of people that are not only accepting of it, but really interested in it,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, there is a curiosity now about mediums and mediumship in a way there hasn't been before. I mean, we can look at this being this universal year 7, this year of great spiritual awakening that's taking place, really drawn, it's where we're really being drawn to seek those greater truths, to understand ourselves at a much more authentic or basis, where what we believe, how we think, how we live our lives is really, really being altered and changed this year. And when we look at it, it's like it was very taboo. Like, I remember, even for myself, when I started my business in my community, like all those years ago, like there were maybe 2 other mediums who were known in the area. And it was this really big step forward in, and it's hard to come out. And there was lots of people pulled away, and people I spoke about how sometimes you lose friends. There is, but I believe that, had it not been for the mediums that came before me, had they not began to clear this trail for, even for the few of us to step forward in our community, and then, starting to do readings, and people knew, were coming to me and were admitting for the first time ever that they were mediums, and could I help them? And so, and now I just feel like all these years I've just clearing the path, making this, myself and all the other mediums that are out there, becoming very vocal about this, really kind of have maybe moved through some of not the limitation within the beliefs that people have, and those fear base of it, to a much more opening. And again, the consciousness of our planet is shifting too. And so we just look at, God bless the mediums who came before, and, the witches who died at the stake all those years ago, because they've made this possible for all of us to be able to really step into our love, our light, and to be able to do this work in this day and time. I mean, the good news is we're not going to die at this, we won't be burned in Times Square, die at the stake, in this lifetime anyway. Not
Yes,
anymore.
yes,
Been there, done that, right?
yes.
But there is a lot of fear. Like there is, I mean, did you have a lot of fear? Like your fear of the spirit world? Did you have a lot of fear in terms of, the experiences you were having?
I don't think I don't really remember having a fear of the spirit world, because all of the experiences that I had, nothing was scary to me. Every experience that I had was more of, I was filled with this feeling of light and joy, and it was really my loved ones who had passed initially. And so for me, it was like having this little visit, and I woke up and I kept thinking it was a dream, but eventually I connected dots with different people who had passed, and I was like, okay, this is not a dream, because it was
Right.
so real. So I never had the fear of, the other side. My husband did, though. I think he's very sensitive to spirit, and I will say that when I started, getting into this, he was very apprehensive. He would,
Yes.
when we would go to sleep, he would ask me, I have this method from you that I learned to kind of shield myself or protect myself from bed or before
At
bed.
bed. Yes.
And yes, I forget the name of it, but you
The
surround yourself.
the nightly incantation. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so I would do that for myself every night. And he's very funny, but he would say, I can't, don't leave me over here like a sitting duck. You have to do it to me too, I think he's very sensitive to spirit, but he did have, I think, a different experience. However, I was definitely, there was a fear of admitting, what I did for a number of reasons, but mostly
Yeah.
just silly, just fear of what people thought of me.
Yeah. Right. The fear of what other people think of you, even though this is, what your truth is, right? There is that always worry that's out there about whether, people are going to understand. Are they, what are they saying? Or what are they saying behind our back, et cetera, right? What they're saying in front of our face could be one thing, but what are they saying afterwards? Or yeah, it's a very real fear that's out there that, that we all, I think, go through in some degree. I think I love that you said that your experiences, that you had, that you really didn't have fear of the spirit world because these were your loved ones. And so you were recognizing that as communication with them. What I tell a lot of people is that your loved one. Now, I mean, there are different relationships, and I'm not talking about those challenging relationships we've had, but when when someone very close to us that we've loved dearly and had a wonderful relationship with, if it didn't hurt us in life, like they're not going to hurt us in death. Like there's nothing to be afraid of. This is just a new form of communication. It's a new way of them being able to get through. And so that fear that we have, often I know a lot of people will just be like, oh my God, I'm so like, get out of here. I can't handle it. And it's like, here's grandma just wanting to say, I love you. And I'm really happy you baked some cookies from my recipes today, but they're so afraid because, even though it's grandma, because it can't be seen. Right. It's not and even if they do see it, this is where it's such this duality, right? They're afraid of what we don't see. And then if we do see something, we kind of freak out a little bit about that too.
Yes, yes. Well, and also too, I remember in my first year with you in your program, you had me write a list of boundaries for spirit. And I did that exercise. And, one of them was that, I didn't want to see any kind of scary apparitions or, that was one of my boundaries. And the thing is, I just never have, and
Right.
so even doing readings for other people, I've never, I mean, I have some wood right here. I'm knocking on wood. I've just never had any kind of, all of mine have just been so full of love that I get really emotional, and I will feel the love. And so yeah, I it's funny too that I'm not afraid of the other side. It's more that I'm afraid of this side.
Right. Yeah, I can deal with spirit, no problem. It's the people, right? It's the people in the world.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Oh my gosh. So funny. So do you have something like really special in terms of a story that you can share, whether it was someone doing a reading with, for someone or something for yourself that really kind of solidified your belief that you are a medium and that the spirit world is something that is very real?
Well, one thing comes to mind. I did a reading for, it was a friend of my mom's who her husband had passed, and we actually grew up, the families grew up very close together. So I knew this man, growing up. And I did a reading for this woman, and she was really, really, really blown away to the point where she had to, get some water. I mean, she was so moved, and she had to, kind of pause and take some deep breaths and get some water. And I know that she felt him the way that I did, and it was, I mean, that reading, she ended up, I was actually doing it for one of your courses. It was one of the complimentary readings
Oh,
that I
awesome. Yes.
did.
Yeah.
So I didn't charge her for the reading, and she ended up, it was such a just magical moment for her that she ended up buying this really beautiful necklace for me and sending it to me as a
Aw,
thank you. And I truly think that changed her perspective on losing her husband.
right.
I think that was proof for her that, he was still with us. And for me, it was just, I mean, I haven't seen someone react the way that she reacted since then. And I
Mhm.
think for me, it was like, I was a little blown away too, like, whoa, this
Yeah,
is,
especially because she's feeling it to the depth of what you're feeling it. This is a shared experience that the two of you are having, and that she's reacting in the same way of the things that you're experiencing in that moment as well.
yes. I mean, she was really blown away. And I'll add quickly that recently was the anniversary. I had a very close friend pass away a couple of years ago. And recently, it was a couple weeks ago, was the 3-year anniversary of her passing, which is so crazy to believe that it's been 3 years. And so I woke up and I got some coffee, and I sat down to meditate. And she and I always had coffee together. She was a coffee connoisseur. That was our thing, but
Yeah.
this wasn't planned. But I went to sit down to meditate. And of course I was going to try to connect to her. Well, I had not even, I mean, I put my coffee mug down and I sat down, and I mean, immediately I felt her. I mean, it was so, and it was wild. It was this really high pitched, and I could tell she was just talking so fast and trying everything that was going on. And she was so excited. And I had tears coming out of my eyes, but I was smiling from ear to ear because I could feel her excitement. I couldn't understand anything she was saying because it was coming at me so fast.
Right.
But and so I had a wonderful meditation. I connected with her and blah blah blah. And at the end of it, I kind of just asked her for a sign because it's always nice to get those signs. It makes me smile throughout the day when I get
Yes.
these little signs from her, and I get them all of the time. Well, because it was a 3-year anniversary of her passing, I was kind of just replaying some of the events that took place when she passed. And I remember when she passed, I was connecting to her before I even knew she had passed. Do you know what I
Wow.
mean?
Yes.
And I looked at my phone, and I had this random person calling me, and there's no reason why this person would be calling me. But for some reason, when I saw the number, I knew right away she had passed, which makes no sense, but somehow I knew that. So
Yes.
I'm just kind of thinking of that. And I'm like, gosh, it's so weird for this person to call me, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I went and dropped my son off at school, and I was headed to yoga, and I'm driving and I'm at a red light, and I look over and I see the person that had called me the day. And I said, there's no way, right? There's no way. It's
Right.
somebody else in a blue Jaguar. So I'm like, but my curiosity got the best of me. So I'm like, I moved up a little bit so I could actually see the driver just to,
Yeah.
it was him. It was him. What are
Wow.
the chances of
Wow.
that?
Right.
So, and
Right.
that just happened like literally 2 weeks ago. So it was
Oh
just so,
my
I was like,
God.
wow. I was thinking, you are
Wow.
good, girl.
Wow. Is your necklace connected to her? Because she keeps commenting to me about your necklace. She wants to acknowledge the necklace.
Yes, it is. This is a new one that I received, and I actually haven't put her picture in here yet, but I need to.
Okay. Because I keep hearing talk about the necklace, talk about the necklace. So
Yes, I have a locket. It's a locket, and I got it to put her picture in. And
Oh,
I had
beautiful.
an old one, and this is a new one to replace it. So yes, she'll go in my little
Yeah.
in
Well, just,
here.
you know, she likes the necklace.
Oh, good, good. She approves.
She approves. Exactly. So, Amy, when you say they're talking to you, how do you receive the spirit world? Are you highly clairvoyant? Is it a claircognizant thought that's taking place for you? Is it more of a clairaudience, or you just like how is it that you can interpret what they're talking? Like where does your soul sense kind of your senses take you?
I think it's mostly clairvoyancy. I mostly see images,
Yeah.
but I also think I'm claircognizant, is where you just kind of know, but you know,
Yes.
but you don't know how you know, but you know. And then I just feel it. I feel it. But also too, I was texting a friend the other night whose mom passed. I won't get into the whole thing, but something just came into my mind and I sent it to her. And as soon as I sent it to her, I got a ringing in my right ear, like
Mm.
really. And then she said, "Oh my gosh, that was my mom. You have the best memory." And I'm thinking, I didn't get into it. I didn't say, no, actually, she just told me. But so, it's kind of like that where I'll get a message and then I'll have something happen in my physical body that's like confirmation. It's like,
Yeah.
whether it's a ringing in the ear or chills on my body, that's something kind of like a confirmation from spirit saying, yes,
That you're on the right track. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And often I think it's important to share too, as we're receiving these impressions from the spirit world, they don't always make sense to us. There is no rhyme or reason. We can't, no matter, the amount of readings we've done or what we've experienced in our personal life, there's just certain things sometimes that we can't make sense of. And so, as I share in the programs and stuff, just always remembering that you're just the messenger. If it fits or how it fits is not for you to figure out. Your role, or we could say your job, is simply communicate what you're feeling, what you're seeing, and offer it to the sitter, because how it fits is really their responsibility to put those pieces together. And I think what holds a lot of mediums up, so to speak, or challenges, is because they get so afraid to say it in case they're wrong. Like there's this fear of getting it wrong that actually holds it back. And yet, if you can just give yourself permission just to say it and just offer it to the sitter, and just, it's like once we can express it, like once we can just throw it out there, just in case, it's like there's so much more that can begin to flow or come. It's like that fear of getting it wrong can hold everything back. And then we say it, the most bizarre things, like I've said some of the most bizarre things in sessions that have nothing to do even with what we've been talking about, where all of a sudden it's like I've maybe held it, and the moment I said it was the moment where it was completely the confirmation that the sitter needed, in knowing that I was indeed connecting with their loved one. I did a reading this morning for a lady, and her husband kept showing me a penny, and he said, a penny and a promise, a penny and a promise, a penny and a promise. And I'm like, I have no idea. And I get, and again, I teach, if you don't understand, go back to spirit and get them to show you more. Try to pull out some more content, and see what's under the iceberg. And, I went back, nothing. There was like, nope, just a penny and a promise, penny and a promise. So I had shared this with her. I said, I'm really not sure how this fits. I can't make sense of it, but he keeps showing me pennies, and he just keeps saying a penny and a promise. And apparently that was his promise. That was exactly what he did when they first got together. He was very poor. They only had pennies between them, but he made a promise that he was going to create a life for them where she would never have to worry about money. She would never have to worry about her safety, her security ever. And he built a very successful business as a result. And where she is sitting now today with him on the other side, he absolutely completed his promise. And that's what he said. It was all starting with a penny and a promise. And that was so
Oh,
beautiful.
yes, I
Yeah.
love that so much.
Yeah.
I
Like I
love
said,
that.
totally didn't make sense to me. Like not at all. Not at
Yes.
all. Okay. So what I mean, when you are look at, your mediumship journey, I know one of the things I had read seen your post or whatever, in devotion, like in becoming devoted to doing this work. I mean, obviously lots has happened to you, but what was the turning point for you that made you kind of go, okay, I need to do this work for others. I need to share these messages from the other side. Feeling that big push or urge, like what led you there? Like what was that turning point of like for you, Amy?
Well, I think it really had to do with how much mediumship has helped my own grieving process because unfortunately I lost a lot of people in a short amount of time. And it was obviously very difficult for me. And learning to connect with them on the other side truly changed my life, and it changed my grieving process. And I really wanted to do that for other people because I saw other people who were suffering, and in my mind, I was thinking, you don't have to suffer, I mean, of course, we still always have the grief and we have the pain because, they're not here physically. So it's different, but even some of the readings that I had with you early on, it's like there was one person specifically, and I was thinking, oh, there's no love lost there, I'm fine. But you told me something in the reading, and I didn't know that that was the thing I needed to hear for like years. And I was
Wow.
thinking, oh yeah, I'm over it. And you said something, and I just started crying, and I knew it was really this person. And I don't know, like I said, it really changed so much of me and how just because I had so much grief that it was sometimes a bit overwhelming. And to find a way out of that and to find, some hope and to find that, I can still have a relationship with my loved ones, even though it's a little bit different. I think I just really wanted to do that for other people. And especially, like I said, I see so many people who are suffering, losing a loved one. And I want to help. And that's was greater for me than my fear of what people
Wow.
would think,
See,
you
I
know.
love that. I love that. The being of service is more important than the fear of doing it. Oh my gosh. I love
Yeah.
that. That really resonates with me because when we realize that, when we think of it astrologically, there's, I mean, so many variables in an astrology chart that kind of points in the direction that we should be talking to dead people. I mean, it's there. But
Neptune
there,
escape.
right, exactly. It shows up in several places in mine. And when you kind of you consider that, okay, there's this divine recipe, there's this reason why this is taking place. And when you recognize that that's actually what we're here to do, that's actually the job that we have signed up for. And so when we move and step into this, it is a deep push. It is we can be called forward through our experiences. Losing a lot of loved ones around us can absolutely do that. And kind of it draws us into our own healing, or necessitates our healing, which creates this seeking of, like you said, the hope or the help. But it's also, as we do these readings for people, as even, as we're grieving or we're moving through our own grief, what happens is that the energy of the spirit world is so full of that healing energy, that unconditional love, that pure resonating field of energy, that when we're bringing it through, as we're helping and offering these messages to other people in healing their grief, we're healing ours as well. It's a real communion that takes place and happens, where it's a 3-tier system. That's what I teach in my program, right? There's 3 people involved here. There's the spirit, there's the medium, and there's the person. And so, we receive from the spirit and we're offering to the sitter, but we all are also receiving the healing, that energy behind their words that are being offered. Even the realizations or processing some of our own grief happens as we're helping other people. It's
Yeah.
incredibly transformational.
Yes. And the woman that I shared about earlier that I did the reading about her husband who had passed, she said that she had not felt that much peace since before he passed, and
Wow.
it had been quite some time. And so, and
Yeah.
again, that was just such a moment for me because I realized how much that reading helped her. And I just, because I was still in one of your programs, and I
Yeah.
was offering them complimentary, and I was just
Yeah.
thinking, I really need to do this just, to be of service. And
Right.
I think that, and that's another thing too for me, is that just with, the fear of, the judgment or whatnot, for me, I do just pray and I just kind of ask to be of service. And if I can be of service and if I can help someone else, and if my journey can help someone else's, if any of my pain can help somebody else's
Right.
journey, then I feel like how can you not do that,
Right. Right. And it is that compassionate healer where we want to help people in this work, because not only have we have we gone through our own dark nights of the soul and found these realizations to the healing that's available, but also because what we've witnessed take place in those moments is undeniable. So it's like even the naysayers and the skeptics and the people who are maybe in judgment, they can't take away, at least for me, they can't take away what happens in those sessions. And that's where now I am going to focus on that service, because it is so profoundly healing. One word can make all the difference for someone. It doesn't even have to be the most profound reading and all kinds of evidential pieces coming into the reading. One simple word can change someone's life, their whole trajectory for their lives. And so it's when you see those miracles happening and those experiences, just like you had with that lady, it was a shared experience. You were both in this very holy moment together that was so undeniable, that becomes the most important part of this. It's like it's the reason why it's like, as you said, I just feel like I need to do that. It's really the reason why. It's not about judge me if you want, go ahead. And maybe it's where I am in my life too. Again, having healed a lot, being the age that I am, that the world is not about other people anymore. Like I spend a good time as we do that through our earlier life in so many different ways, where it really mattered more, and this work matters more. It's what drives me. And it's the passion, it's my why, because I see time and time again how much how people's lives are being changed, and mediums' lives are being changed for simply saying and saying yes to answering the call, saying yes to doing even the reading for
Yes,
people,
yes.
right? Yeah.
Another thing that's interesting too is I feel like oftentimes what I've run into is that if someone has, lost a loved one, they might be concerned about one thing, and it's, just a simple yes or no question. And just giving them that answer gives them peace,
Yeah.
knowing that their loved one didn't suffer, that they didn't die alone, or there's so many different
Right.
things. And it's almost like just that one little bit of information just changes everything for them,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Okay, Amy, I'm going to ask you one more quick question, and then
Yeah.
we're going to turn it over and we'll answer the questions. I mean, but you're on the hot seat here all tonight. All you're doing is answering questions. um, what advice do you have for mediums, maybe who are a little bit afraid or a little bit uncertain in terms of coming out of out of their closet, out of that spiritual woo-woo closet, and just, moving into this work? What advice would you have for them?
My advice would be to, just stay in connection with spirit and just trust that you are being guided to a purpose that's bigger than, what you can even see at this point. And, I know it's really easy to say, don't worry about what people think. It's so easy to say that
Right.
compared to, but I have found that, by coming out, the people who accept me are the people who I want to be around anyway, and the people who don't accept me are not really people that I want really in my circle anyway, so it's
Oh
kind
my
of like
gosh, yes.
you can really kind of find your tribe, so to speak. And I think just, it's about just trying to, have that courage, and trusting. And I think the best way to do that personally is just to stay in connection with spirit every day and just pray for that guidance and, pray for the courage or whatever it is that's kind of blocking you, whatever obstacles, and spirit will take care of you.
Oh
They'll
my
guide you where you need to be.
Oh my God, I love that so much, because that's the absolute truth, that even as we move into wanting to do this work and we're afraid of whether we're going to get it wrong, the spirit world wants us to succeed, because they want us to get these messages through. They want the healing for their loved ones. So they're going to do everything possible to help and support us in being able to achieve those connections. So I love that advice. Just really settling and into spirit and just relying on that to be, the connection every single day. I love that. Wonderful. Okay, so we're going to move to the chat. Again, you have questions, please, any questions whatsoever. Of course, they add so much to our conversation. Oh my gosh, people, hello everybody. They're loving stories. Okay, awesome. I have lots just comments happening. We have no questions here tonight for us. Well, while that's happening, da, 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 da.
I saw someone commented about the necklace. Maybe
There
they
we
were
go. Yes,
picking something too.
they were picking up on your necklace too. So she was getting attention of a few of us. Oh my gosh, this is a great question from Christina. She'd like to know, Amy, how do you use your mediumship to get clear in your real life, like in your day-to-day life?
Oh, that's a great question, Christina. I meditate every single morning and I connect to I have a team. I have a big team and I connect to them every single day. And I ask for guidance and, I get it. I get crystal clear guidance. And like I said, I do it every single morning and sometimes I'll also do it in the afternoon. But yeah, I think it's, my team really comes through. Like they really
Yeah,
step up.
yeah.
And I just, I do it every single morning. I actually use your expansion meditation
Yes,
money.
yes.
And yeah, I do it every single morning and I get very clear guidance and very visions and yeah.
Yeah.
So
And I love that you bring up meditation, Amy, because I know anyone who's taken my program, I work with a lot of people who can't meditate, don't meditate. I know that they should meditate. And so there is a component, and not just in my program, but in the scope of doing a mediumship, in receiving those messages from the spirit world. The spirit world talks in whispers, like the energy that we receive. So again, when you look at how do we use this to kind of get some real guidance, we need to slow down. Sometimes in the busyness of our life, and we're in constant doing mode, and we might be asking for guidance, and nothing seems to be showing up. There's no signs. We're too busy. So having opportunity to slow down to create some stillness allows the spirit world to be able to bring in the guidance, to place the visions inside of us in terms of what may be the supported direction or their advice. Now, a lot of people always ask my loved ones weren't very wise, or they didn't know much. Why should I be asking them about my life? I want to ask my angels about my life. And part of we look at that and say, yes, that's true. But we do want to utilize our connection to the spirit world because they've been human. They understand from the spirit plane what it's like, these challenges that we have. Like it's like we can have an angel that'll say, don't worry, everything's going to be okay, or the spirit saying, I know the challenge, you've been worrying a lot. Like they really understand that we've been worrying. But also we look at our loved ones as being a part of our past because we hold memories with them. But the truth is, they hold space for our future because they've gone on ahead of us. And they are not all wise once they cross over, but they have access to connections and resources and people. Like they know people who know people who know people that can help us in all kinds of ways. So we can utilize them. And I know my dad has said there's only so much vodka and card playing a guy can do. So give him something to do on the other side, right? Ask him for help. So again, slowing down. I love that you brought in your daily meditation because that's exactly it. And in meditation, you can talk to dead people without being someone who meditates. So I don't want to say that's the be all and the only way, but what happens it actually clears the channel. It actually allows you to show up and be a better medium. So if you could say it, I don't want to say that in judgment of who's good and who's not, because that's not it. But the best of you, that's probably a good way of saying it. The best of you begins to show up into every session because you're self-regulating your nervous system, you're slowing down, and you're able to receive a lot more. So yeah, I love that you said, meditation. I also think too, be open to any signs wherever. I think just as, the synchronicities that play out, you may not get the answer in the meditation. You may not have the vision immediately, but know that when you ask, there's going to be some events that are going to take place that are going to catch your attention. It's like Amy shared earlier, the number that showed up on her phone, and suddenly this person's at a red light. Like these are the synchronicities that begin to happen. I know I always say to my guides, if I'm really needing some clarity on something, I will always say to my team, I'm like, okay, guys, So I really need to know if I'm meant to do this. And if I'm meant to do this, you need to show me a specific sign by a certain time of the day. And as an example of this, I can't remember what I was looking to do. I'm just going to use the medium's world. Do I do this medium's world event? So I'm asking, like, I don't know, do I do this? And I mean, my mind is saying, oh, I've got so much on the go. And my calendar's so busy. How am I going to fit this in? Right. There's my ego talking and giving me all the reasons, excuses, and the buts of things. And so where I can get into saying, okay, if I'm meant to do this event, then I want you to show me a penguin by 2 o'clock today. So for those of you that don't know, I live in Canada. Penguins are way up north. I'm nowhere near any, we do not have penguins. I don't even live by water where that would even be a possibility. I give them sometimes what is the most impossible task ever, just because I'm looking for a yes or a no. And so what happened that day is I sat down for my client session at 1 o'clock, and I kid you not, right behind this lady, she had a latch hook picture of penguins. And she said to me that she was actually going to do it in a different room at her kitchen table, and she had got up and moved to that room. You see, Spirit will do all kinds of things to ensure that we get the answers we're looking for. We just need to be open to them, right? So utilizing, asking, ask your angels, ask your loved ones, just ask, and then be open to all of the different ways that the synchronicities and things that can play out as a result. That's a really great question.
I love that.
Yeah. So, okay, let me just go up here in the questions. Roxana would like to know, Amy, how has Reiki helped or complemented your mediumship?
I think that Reiki is just another kind of modality that I use to receive information from spirit, if that makes sense. I think that as I'm sitting here, I'm doing this with my hands, not even doing it. But and of course I can tell you the astrology for this, but for some reason I feel energy through my hands. And so I can use that for people, whether they're, in my physical presence or not. But I think that I did the Reiki long before I actually did the mediumship. And I was already feeling that energy inside of me. I can feel it. I can feel the energy moving through my hands. And I can feel when I put my hands on people, I can feel different energy from people. So I think that the answer to that question is that I think it started to really help me tap into my intuition in my body, if that makes sense. Like just getting into my body and feeling the different sensations that, that I experience. I definitely have so many things that happen physically when I'm in connection to spirit. So I think that Reiki just kind of helped. I also think that it really helped open up my chakras and open up my, all of the chakras, third eye, everything. So I think that Reiki was really the beginning of helping me to just be open to receive.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you said that, because when we look at it, when we think of our energy centers, the chakras, they govern our soul senses as mediums. So as you move into doing Reiki and you're working, this regulated system begins to activate those soul senses. Those are, as you're talking, Amy, you're talking how your hands, there's this one of the soul senses even being clairtangency within the hand chakras, and we can receive information from the spirit world through psychometry. So if we're actually holding an item, we can, get immediate downloads and impressions from the spirit world. But often it can also be just simply as we're placing hands, or we have our hands, with someone, on someone, we're holding their hand. There is it's all energy. So it begins to create and open up to greater flow with the spirit world too. So, and again, I'm not a Reiki practitioner, but I've worked with a lot of mediums like Amy who are Reiki practitioners who have, taken the course, and suddenly the spirit world is showing up. And it's simply because of the active, that regulation of their own chakra system that regulates the soul senses, and boom, now they've got spirit showing up. So it complements, absolutely. It's a real cohesive, energetic synthesis that takes place between Reiki and communication with the spirit world. Yeah, so good, so good. Okay. So to Helen, Helen would like to know how you separate intuition and the messages from the spirit world. Oh, or are they the same? Can I answer this one?
Yes, yes, please.
And then you can add to it because I love this question. I would love this question because our intuition, what we could say is the psychic ability. So we all have psychic abilities. We all have a built-in intuition. Some people, have a keener intuition than what maybe others have, but we've all got those gut feelings. We've all got that regulated system. That's a part of what comes with us as human beings. It's a part of our ego, our ego makeup, and it's our navigation system. When we have intuition is what leads mediums to connection with the spirit world. And what happens, as I teach in my course, and I say we go beyond intuition, because the moment you start connecting with the spirit world, your intuition, you're not even using it anymore. That's it. You don't have to use it because now you've got a direct connection with the spirit world. You're connecting with your angels. You're connecting with your guides. You're tuned in, tapped in to a large intelligence that is now helping to govern and direct your life. So what can happen is we're always saying, oh, that was my intuition. Actually not. When it comes to as mediums, once you open that door to the other side, you start to regulate these energy centers, and you start to understand how you're receiving from the spirit world. Your intuition becomes almost like not that it shuts down, it's almost like it falls away because it's not a part of the spiritual aspect, because now you're engaging your spiritual truth. You're not relying on the ego. The ego relies on the intuition. The higher self relies on this connection to the unseen world. Okay. Oh my God, I love that's my favorite question ever. So that's why I have to. Anything you'd like to add to that, Amy?
Actually, I was just going to say something that I was taught by you, that if it's spirit, it'll come back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's certain times where, it's like, I'm wondering, is that my intuition or is that my ego? But if it comes back to me, it's spirit. And it does, because it's like, no, you don't forget, so it'll come back if it's spirit.
Yeah. I love that you brought it up because guidance is repetitive, right? It'll come back. If it's guidance and if it's your loved one, they're going to make sure that you get it for sure. All right. So great question. Amanda would like to know, if you're disconnected or into a lesser connection, what do you do to rejuvenate yourself and that connection?
For me, again, meditation. And I think it's just because I have a very busy life and I have an active mind. And so for me, I meditate because it helps me get clear. But also I always hydrate. I drink a lot of water. And I just make sure that I have to have my downtime and my self-care and, all of the nutritious food. I love, one of my favorite parts of your program was talking about the medium's nutrition. I mean, but I really do. I think that I have to just take care. I have to be making sure that I'm getting, good quality sleep, and that I'm, doing a daily meditation, because that's what works for me to keep my head clear. Otherwise, it's a bit of a mess up there. And just staying really well hydrated and eating, I just find that if I do, light foods, nothing too heavy, I like to call them like quick exit foods. It just keeps me, I find, in connection easier. Also like an Epsom salt bath, being around water, drinking water, even salt. I drink these electrolyte drinks that I think really help me as well. So yeah.
I love that, and again, I mean, I share that in the program. We talk about the three basic spiritual needs, but when salt is necessary for us in doing this work, because salt is a purification, and it's not like we want to OD on salt. Excuse me. It's not like we want to really take a lot in, or we want to regulate it. But I know even for myself, like I know it grosses people out, but I always take like a quarter teaspoon of sea salt or Himalayan salt, whatever kind of I go to that day, and I take a quarter teaspoon of that, I throw it into my mouth, and I slug back water. I take salt like that. And the reason for that is that salt begins to diffuse some of the non-beneficial energy. So empathically, anything that we're absorbing, salt will naturally begin to dissolve some of the energy. It becomes a cleansing. So we're cleansing those energies from the inside out. And so as mediums, we do require higher levels of protein and clean protein. We do require a little bit more salt in our diet. And again, it can happen. And I know a lot of, I've had many conversations with mediums, and I know I've done it myself, where I love that you say those quick exit foods, where you're just like those heavy things that are just quick, I need something to eat. And you right away into the snacks, and you're into the sweet and the salty and things like that, because the body needs it to regulate all of those energies. And so when you make that, I love that you bring it up, Amy, the hydration, and the salt bath, even cleansing that out of your aura field, all of that. So if you are feeling disconnected, it's an indication, one, not enough self-care, and two, that to look at how, what you've been, maybe the energy that you're carrying as well. Very, again, we talk about waywards, and we talk about attachments and all that stuff. So if you're feeling like you have a lesser connection, or if you're feeling disconnected, it's probably something that you can attend to. It always, first and foremost, as Amy said, comes back to self-care, self-care, self-care. Yeah. And that's how you can rejuvenate, and again, moving, the three basic spiritual needs, we look at hydration, we look at nutrition, we also look at exercise, and exercise isn't anything grueling. You're looking to express energy, to understand that we are in constantly, Amy mentioned this earlier, constantly having this communication come at us all the time. There's energy constantly in our field that's not ours. And so we're in a receiving mode very naturally. And when we're receiving this energy, if we're not expressing the energy, it's becoming lodged or stuck in our energy body, in our esoteric body, and in the subtle body system. And then what happens is that energy then starts to be suppressed into our physical body. Now we're tired, we have aches and pains, we might have digestive issues, we're tense shoulders, whatever it is. And it can manifest into bigger things if we're not aware either. And so where we look at, we need to express this energy in some way, which means just going for a walk, being able to do some yoga, just like Amy does, like stretching and pushing. I mean, I do yoga, but not to the level that Amy does. The things she does amazes me. But just in being able to express these energies out is a great way where you can feel feel really rejuvenated and restore that connection as well. So to me, I mean, there's lots more within it, and reasons why we want to be attentive to those areas, but those are definitely an answer to your question. If you're feeling disconnected, you need to connect with yourself. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Amy, Sharon would like to know, what's your morning and evening routine that you do that helps you to stay connected?
Every morning, first thing I do wake up early because I have a little guy, and once he's up, that's it. In fact, that's why I'm not home right now, because I know I'm borrowing my husband's office, because otherwise I would have a 5-year-old taking over the show. But I wake up pretty early so that I have the house to myself. And first thing I do is I drink water with lemon, like warm hot water with lemon in it. And I have that. And I do have a cup of coffee because,
You just got to have coffee.
Yes. Yeah. That's one vice.
You need to be happy. Without my coffee, I'm not happy.
Yes, exactly. So I do have a cup of coffee, and I sit down and I do a 20-minute meditation. I love Bonnie's meditations, and I oftentimes will do Bonnie's meditations, but I also do transcendental meditation. And so I usually do a 20-minute meditation every morning. And that is how I start my day. I mean, it really grounds me to do that every morning. And and then at night, I try to turn my phone off, about an hour or two before bed. I try not to look at the blue light. And I try to read, and I do have a little bit of tea, not too much, or I'll be up using the restroom all night. And that's really it. I do the nightly incantation that Bonnie does, but I really try to, I mean, some nights if I have time, I will also take an Epsom salt bath. I feel like baths and water are probably the most soothing thing for my nervous system. So, but I have 3 children, so that doesn't happen every night. But I think the main thing for me is tuning out I'm very light and sound sensitive, as I'm sure most of you are. If you're a medium, I think we all are. So I've noticed that if I am on my phone at all, it tends to interfere with my sleep. So I do try to just kind of start winding down, I would say about 2 hours before bed. And, if I can, I read usually some of a book, and I will do the nightly incantation. And that's usually it. I usually do my second meditation in the afternoon, because if I do it at night, it can have an adverse effect, believe it or not, where it keeps me up.
It creates connection, right? Now you've activated the spirit world.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Thank you for that, Amy. And I know for myself too, I've really had to discover what my rhythm is, and really honoring that natural rhythm. And my natural rhythm for me, I mean, you'd never know when you look at an astrological sense, you'd never know, but in my chart, I have no fire, which means I have to begin to create some of that fire energy for myself. So for me in the morning, when I wake up in the morning, it really is stillness and slowness, and I really ease into my day with coffee, of course, with coffee. But where there's also, just this time just to be within my own self, my own thoughts, and just giving myself an opportunity to just breathe into my day. And of course, because of that breathing into my day, I too am like Amy. I am a meditator. And so I always do, at least a half hour of meditation in the morning. I think, we often think that meditations need to be these hour-long experiences, and that's simply not the case. You go on a meditation retreat, you might be meditating for 3 hours at a stint, or 4 hours for a stint. But this is just really looking at creating any opportunity to self-regulate, just breathe into your own self. And then again, I go through just kind of moving into connection. And I do this as a meditation. I move into prayer. I move into kind of a real sacred or holy time in the morning. And I usually anywhere from 30 minutes to sometimes 45 minutes. I don't always get a full hour. And although I find that if I wait too long in the and I go into the afternoon and I try to meditate, that's when I fall asleep. So for me, I'm well rested in the morning. And so therefore I know when I go into meditation, I'm not going to fall asleep. And then just like Amy said, if I tried at night, well, now I've just engaged the whole other side, and we're going to be communicating and talking all night. And that certainly, certainly can be challenging. So, here in the morning, it really is, just really honoring myself. When I first started working professionally, I had it because of the conditioning. You worked from 9 to 5, and I had worked from 8 to 4:30 for like years. So when I moved into doing this work professionally, I had it in my head that I needed to start at 9 o'clock in the morning. I was up, my kids were going to school, and now I'm going to go to work. But what that was, it was such a disruption to that internal rhythm of mine, that it really was where I was kind of feeling sluggish. I was not at my very best energetically. And so I realized that I needed to create my calendar based on what my natural rhythm is, and be of service during the hours when my vibration and energy is at its highest. And so now, I'm seeing clients at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we're going, it's all kinds of different, I'll see them till about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, take a break, and then I'm online for teaching or things like that. But in the morning is sacred to me. That is completely my time. And then at nighttime, I shower in the morning every morning, and I bathe every night. It's my I don't live by water. I'm a Cancer rising. I need water. And so my husband always, rolls his eyes over our water bill, because there I go again, but it's how I It's how I come into in freshness of energy in the day, not just in terms of hygiene for the body, but a fresh energy field in the morning. I always imagine that when I step into the shower, is that the shower isn't just water. I actually pray or ask for that water to be silver light. Silver energy is the highest frequency of light that can cleanse any negative ions, restore or heal our auric field. If there's any tags or snares, if we've absorbed any energies, even empathically through the night as we've slept, a silver shower will wash that all away. So I move in the morning of saying, okay, I need to do this not only for my own personal well-being, but so that I'm at my very best energetically for being of service during the day. And then at nighttime, like Amy said, to me, that's comfort, that's relaxation. And I may do an Epsom salt bath especially if it's been a day of some really deep, heavy stories and a lot of wounds and a lot of, sadness. I hold that, and I feel it, in my core. And so for me, that's one of the ways that, again, not only am I taking care of myself, but I'm also releasing any of those energies that I've absorbed as well. So I tend to, what's interesting, what's different for me, and again, it's just because I need to create white noise. I need to create, not that I like listening to sound machines or anything like that, I don't, but I need to create white noise around me. It's like, because I'm working up here all day and I'm receiving from the spirit world, I need to create some noise around me so that I can come in and ground and be present to settle in for the night. And what I mean by that white noise is I like to listen to mantras. I have music going. Sometimes, I will, spend an hour before bed just laying in bed and closing my eyes and resting and listening to music, just as a way to create some white noise so that it allows me to settle. It's one of the ways that if I can have noise around me here in this world, then the other world I'm not hearing them. And it's how I soothe. And of course, the nightly incantation as well. That's a really great question. Really, really great. Okay. From Barb here, Amy. She says, when you do your reading, how and do you prepare and use astrology?
That is a great question. So when I'm doing an astrology reading, I definitely have to prepare because I have to look at the person's chart, and it takes quite a bit of time to go over the chart and look at all the, where the planets were when they were born compared to where they are today. And so it does, astrology readings take quite a bit of preparation. For my regular readings, I think that is actually one of my biggest struggles, is because the thing with astrology is that I've realized I am really good at gathering information and then delivering it. And with astrology, it really actually comes down to numbers, believe it or not, and math. And so I know that I'm giving the right information because it's math and it's numbers. And I think that was actually one of the challenging things with mediumship, was that I didn't know that I was actually, like, until you have the discussion with the person, until that your impressions are confirmed or validated, you don't. And so it was kind of, I realized that there's a sense of control that I have with my astrology readings compared to the medium readings. And that was really hard for me. So for me, with medium readings, it's really about doing what I can do for my body, which is what we just talked about, staying hydrated, getting good sleep, meditating, because that's, how I stay in connection, and then just trusting. You know what I mean? Like, that's, for me, the only thing that I can do is just have my body physically, as hydrated and open to receive. And then I just have to trust spirit. And like I said, the astrology readings are totally different because I do prepare. But I will say too, Bonnie knows this, but oftentimes spirit will talk to me in astrology. So if I'm doing a medium reading, I promise you, I will see planets, and I've actually been able to predict, like, pregnancies and times of birth and all kinds of crazy things, because spirit will literally show me planets, and that's my bias. So I know what that means. But also too, sometimes I'll be giving an astrology reading and all of a sudden I'll feel spirit, and I don't tell the person, but I know that whatever I've said, that I'm on the right track, because I say something and I get the chills, or I'll get some kind of feeling. And I know that to keep going in that direction, if that makes sense. So
Mhm.
I hope that
I love
answers.
it. And thank you, Amy. And I think, when you look at it as well, this really becomes down to intention. And again, whether I think you're doing an astrology reading, you're doing a Reiki session, you're going to do a tarot reading, maybe you're doing connecting with spirit on the other side, having an opportunity to set an intention in terms of not only what it is that you want the person to be able to receive from your time together, but also in terms of how you need to be supported during that session for yourself in being the messenger or being the healer is very, very important step too. So part of, we look at preparing, and I know for myself, if I'm doing a coaching session, if I am doing a retreat, a group retreat, if I'm doing a personal intensive, if I'm teaching a class, if I'm doing a reading for someone, everything starts with intention and prayer. And so that's, it's not one modality versus the other, or one way versus the other. So it is just really moving from a place of connection with spirit first, and then moving forward with whatever it is that I'm doing. So that I found that now my ego gets out of the way, and now I can really be of service for someone. I'm like Amy. I have a bias of astrology, of course, ins and outs about it. But for me, spirit will often show me their chart. I will often speak to, they'll tell me that they have a transit moving through their seventh house, and that transit's going to move through their seventh house. And that's going to happen just in a couple of weeks. And they're going to see, they'll have a lot of relief then, things that I haven't even looked at their chart that spirit's already bringing forward and through in those conversations, simply because of the bias for it. But I'm digressing, but as we look at it, it really is, how do you prepare if you're using astrology, or how do you prepare if you're doing a mediumship reading? For me, it always comes down to having the highest, an intention that's going to be of service in the highest and greatest good for the person that I'm doing the session for, as well as in support of me being the one doing the session. So, okay. Great stuff. Great stuff. Roxana, can you just give me more of that question? Because you're asking me what his name is, and I honestly don't remember what we talked about, or what that particular instant is. So if you can just give me a little bit more in the comment on it, and I'll try to watch for it. Okay. Oh, I love that. So Jen has her daughter listening, and she wants to know, when your ears are ringing, is someone in heaven trying to speak to you? Absolutely. Absolutely. We can experience connections with the other side. Sometimes we might, as Amy said, a lot of hers come, she has a lot of vision. So she sees a lot of pictures and a lot of images, where for me, as an example, I receive a lot, which is called clairaudiently, which means I have a lot of buzzing and humming, even itchy ears or ringing in my ears that will happen. It doesn't make sense. There's no words to that. It's just a ringing in the ear. And I always say, thank you for whatever. Can you please ease up a little bit? Because it can be, as a symptom, it can be, troublesome, or it can be irritating. So I always, recognize that it's information coming in. I say thank you, and then pay attention to what I'm thinking, because what happens is spirit will bring in these energies through our ears, which means clairaudiently, and we're not supposed to. We might hear words like you and I are saying, we're talking, and we might hear words like this, but most often it's just energy. It's just a static, or a buzzing, or a humming, or a ringing. And so it is about, when that happens, say thank you, and then pay attention to what you're thinking, because if you immediately think that it's your dad, or it's your grandma, or somebody, it is. That's exactly who's there. You wouldn't be having that thought otherwise. And so it can even sometimes feel like you're underwater. Like if you have water in your ears, that's also a common sign of what is spirit communication as well. So yes, absolutely. Someone from heaven is indeed speaking to you in that moment. And even if you don't understand, just say thank you to them, because the more we thank and appreciate their effort, the more it almost draws them in, and it allows them to be able to show up or bring us even more experiences with them as well when we start acknowledging and appreciating their very best effort. Great question. Great question. Amy, I know you do clairaudience too. Do you find you get a lot of ringing in your ears, or?
I do. I do. Like I said the other day, and for me, it's, sometimes it'll just happen randomly and I'll just all of a sudden get it ringing in my ear. And I just pay attention, like, okay, what thoughts am I having? What's going on? It kind of just takes me back for a second. But also, like I said the other day, I was messaging a friend and I definitely had something from their mom and I sent the text, and then I got the ringing. And to me, that was like confirmation. And also too, when I connect with Heidi, I will hear this I have and it's usually my right ear.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, right? And it's so here, so I love that you brought up the right side, because there's a difference in terms of the I would say the message that we're receiving, whether we're getting it for ourselves or whether we're going to be giving a message from spirit for someone else. If we are experiencing it on the right side of our body, it generally has to do with our physical life or the person's physical life, which means their relationships, their jobs, their health, where they're living, things like that. Maybe even their, and I say relationships like their kids, or it could be about their dog. It could be about issues they're having, or maybe there's, some change that's taking place for them in a physical sense. And if it's coming in on the left side has to do with our inner world or the spiritual self, or we could say the inner world being the emotional content of a person. So that means in terms of issues of the heart that are leading them to more spiritual connection with themselves, or invitations for meditation and journaling, or deeper healing. That is maybe where the invitations lie. So generally it has to do with our left side is about our spiritual self, and the right side is about our physical world. So we don't have to figure out exactly what they're trying, because even if we don't get it in that moment, it's going to play out just fine. It shows up there. They'll bring the guidance through over and over and in different ways. Well, awesome. I'm just going to scroll down here, Roxana, in following up with just to see if you've put the comment there. Oh, I see. She has a medical Reiki angel. She said she knows that he's here. She doesn't know what he looks like or really what his name is, and just wondering if he's there now and what is his name. Roxana, I'm just in really honoring the event. Not really getting too much into doing readings here tonight, and unfortunately, but I want to say the best way that to know is, again, ask for the name and ask him to give you the name. And what you do is then pay attention to what or who shows up afterwards. As an example, if you're asking a guide what their name is and you're not receiving that clearly, just say, please show me in some way. And the next day you might meet someone, and maybe this person, this person's name is Tara. I'm just going to use that as an example. That's not the name I'm getting, but the name is Tara. And you meet this individual and hi, Tara, nice to meet you. And the next thing you know, you're driving down the street and now you're looking and somebody's license plate says Tara 101 on it. And then you're thinking, wow, that's really odd and wild. And then as you're going, so you sit down in a restaurant and you overhear a conversation, and you overhear them and they're talking. They say, hey, did you talk to Tara the other day? It's like the name shows up again. You're going to see that name is going to show up several times in your experience, which is going to help confirm that is indeed your guide's name. Okay, so I really encourage you to try that. It's a real fun way to begin to work with your spirit guides. The great way to begin to even work in connecting with these healing masters, and just really getting a more intimate or personal relationship. And when you figure out their name is fun, but it also helps you to begin to trusting that they're there, trusting that you've asked, trusting that your sense of them is very real. So great. Okay, so we have, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna go back up. Oh, Val's question. Oh, I like this. We talked a little bit about this last night, but Amy, maybe you can even add some light onto Val's question here. Do you feel that children that have night terrors are psychic?
In my personal opinion, I would have to say yes.
Yeah.
I have a 5-year-old who has night terrors, and he is very sensitive to spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally would say yes.
Mm-hmm. And I would say this is the difference as well. I think that in looking, as psychic, and I don't want to take this at all, psychic do readings in terms of energy in terms of past, present, and future. So they are in a perception of energy about someone's life. Whereas we look at night terrors, it is more representative of a connection to the other side and to the spirit world. And so there, the difference, psychics perceive and mediums receive, which means we're receiving direct contact and direct communication with these other beings. And so when night terrors are a part of the equation, very often because it's a disruption for these little mediums, simply because it's overwhelming. They're having a lot of high vibrational experiences. It's like their spiritual being is engaging at this higher level, but their little ego doesn't have the maturity yet to understand what's at play, and so therefore it creates these night terrors. They literally are almost challenged between and living between two worlds through the night. Yeah, my kids had night terrors too. It's a very, very real thing, but it just really begins to just kind of express the sensitivity to the spirit world. Yeah, so great, so great. Okay. Awesome. All right. So here we are. Oh my gosh, here we are. We are wrapping things up. I can't believe how quickly the conversation has gone. Amy, I want to say thank you so very much for staying up later with us than what was necessary to be a part of the Q&A here tonight. And of course, for sharing your wisdom, of experience, and your light and love in the world. Thank you so very much for just being a part of this conversation here with me tonight. Before I wrap up, I just want to say a couple of things in terms of my program. I have a special offer, of course, happening in conjunction with this event, where you can receive $111 off the tuition. That's the price for my class has been set. It's been that since forever and a day. It hasn't gone down. It hasn't gone up. This is the very first time where in creating an opportunity like this, where I've got able to give you a gift really of $111 with the tuition. Also, what I've opened up and was guided to open up, I sat with my spirit guides and I'm like, really? What? Is that I'm opening up 6 months to my online monthly mentorship circle, which generally it's called Get Into It. And it's generally a mentoring circle for mediumship that I only make available for students who are actively working in classes. So when they're taking their programs and they've got questions about their development, they want to make sense of their accountability assignments, they need a little bit help on maybe understanding. I have a circle every month where they come in for that exact purpose. And I'm opening it up. I have people who, when they do their level 1 training with me, they may do it on work one-on-one with me. If they're working one-on-one, then they get, they come into that circle to support them over the 8 weeks. However, in doing a weekend intensive, we kind of move into it. We move into it, certification happens and then it's over. So it hasn't ever been available before with a weekend intensive. And of course, with this offering, you get access to that for 6 months as a part of your registration too. And that's golden. That is like, we have some of the juiciest conversations exactly in some of the things that we've have going on here tonight. And we get to do that every single month. So I would really encourage you that if you really want to move into understanding yourself as a medium, really beginning to create a healthy relationship with the other side, and just finding almost this newfound sense of well-being, for your life too. I know that, as I shared with you the other night, I feel that I'm in coming forward and doing this work, that I am happier, healthier, and than I've ever been in my life. And for me, that's the greatest gift that I could give to my family. And so I love doing this work. I love everything that mediumship's about. Amy, I love you. And I love each and every one of you for taking time out to be a part of this event. So for tonight, I say good night, and I will see you here, same place, same time tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.